Okay, thank you, Andy. Good morning. I'm going to call the April 6th meeting of the 2021 of the Bicycle Committee to order for the city of Fitchburg. And the first order of agenda this morning is the approval of our minutes from February 2nd, 2021 that Phil has sent out. Do we have any feedback on that?
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
Andy's made a motion, second by Angie. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda on item. Do we have anybody for putting in a public appearance for non-agenda items? We have nobody in City Hall, right, Andy? Looks empty. Okay. All right. We'll move over to reviewing the agenda. You've all got a copy of the agenda that Phil sent out late last week. And most of the activity is under item agenda number 5. So hearing, if there's no questions about the agenda, let's go ahead and move into number 5, which is Phil's going to talk about bicycle events around Fitchburg. And we are on schedule. 1 minute ahead. It's all yours, Phil.
All right. Go ahead and share my screen here. So a few carryovers from our February meeting, a couple new additions. Tried to make it a little bit more visual this time instead of just describing everything. So nothing big that I saw on the calendar for this month, but in May, of course, it's National Bike Month again, as recognized by the League of American Bicyclists and celebrated around the country. With National Bike Month, we've got Bike to School Day, Bike to Work Day, and Bike Week. As of right now, we don't have any Fitchburg specific events that I'm aware of. We do have Love to Ride is doing another Bike Month challenge. They did this back in September and we participated as a Fitchburg team. And I believe for Bike Month this year, I'll be putting together again another Fitchburg team with this committee, and trying to remember if I did just the committee or the committee and all of Fitchburg staff. But whatever I did in September, I'll look to repeat for this year. With the improvement in COVID cases and increase in vaccinations, but we're still not all the way to things being open yet. I'm not sure if we want to talk about, I don't know if Madison is planning to do like all the bike commuter stations or if the Bike Fed is endorsing that. Mike or Andy or anybody else, do you know about that?
I was going to say we should probably check with Steve.
Yeah, the Madison Bikes will be doing Bike Week the first full week of June. Historically, the Bike Week celebrated nationally is a little bit early for Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And so they will have a Bike Week agenda on the madisonbikes.org website. Events that I know of so far are there's a couple different educational events. I think Fix a Flat clinic that will be done by Zoom by the university, but you can go there and see the various events, and they will be Bria Zukaya, who you might know from formerly the Fish Hatchery Road Outreach Coordinator, now works for either the City of Madison or the MPO. I'm a little, because she has a City of Madison address. So those things will be promoted on that website. And then there will be a workplace challenge, as Phil mentioned. And so all the events are going to be on the madisonbikes.org and Love to Ride.
All right, thanks, Steve. Yeah, it looks like they don't have anything up yet for Bike Week in June. So I wasn't sure if they were doing their own thing or if we were just aligning with the national ones. That's good to know. I'll make sure that communications from the city are done accordingly. But then that of course raises the question, if Bike Week is being celebrated again, is Madison going to do any commuter stations? If they do, Fitchburg typically does a commuter station at the bike roundabout, but this year that's closed due to the construction from the sewerage district. So I guess it's worth at least a brief discussion on whether we would look to do a commuter station again as a city, and if so, where would be a good location for that?
Bike Fitchburg normally organizes that with the assistance of Parks Maintenance, and
Right.
we are not planning on anything.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I forgot that was a Bike Fitchburg headed initiative.
And the other thing is that as far as I know, the big events in Law Park, like Bacon on the Bike Path, brat cakes, and so on, will not happen this year. Not at least in June.
Okay. All right, so I'll still
Excuse me,
keep an eye
Steve.
out for things.
Yeah.
Sorry?
They will be having the Ride the Drive is sometime in June. They'll be closing John Nolan again this year.
It will not be John Nolan. There will be Ride the Drive, but I think it's going to be dispersed into 3 neighborhood parks. The annual or the weekly, so there's a weekly newsletter from the city of Madison, and they said save the date, might be the 9th of June. And then the Madison Bikes newsletter comes out every week on Monday. And both of those have the Ride the Drive dates, but there's been no locations published yet. But they did say, look for something different this year. Will be dispersed to I think 3 neighborhood park locations.
Thank you for clarifying that.
All right.
Is there anything else, Phil, under bike related events?
Yes, yeah, if we go forward into, well, maybe to scale this down a little bit. In July, we've got several events. There's the Bike for Boys and Girls Club that happens every year, I guess with the exception of last year. That'll be July 17th to support Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. We've got Festival of Speed is being held again this year. It's July 10th. I do have a link in the bike packet. If you're interested in that, definitely go check it out. But that's a popular kind of a variety of different levels of activity event. And then right across Wisconsin, I mentioned in February, is the last weekend in July, 1st in August, not really in the Fitchburg area, but a pretty big cycling event for the state. And that's all I've got in here.
Phil, before you leave there, I am back. I was asked to go back on the event planning committee for that Boys and Girls Club event.
Oh yeah?
So they're still at a point where, again, we don't know how many people will be able to get together, but they're thinking about waves. They're also have added a walk and a run to the bike ride. So I can kind of keep this group advised as that goes forward, but they've started meeting every other week last week.
So I would think with order number 15, that might give people some flexibility, because we're no longer restricting numbers of groups that gather outside, and then people are no longer required to wear masks outside. That was the order that came out last Friday, goes into effect, I believe, today.
Yeah.
And one of the other big local events these days, and actually the only one that was held last year, is the Carbone Cancer, the Ride, which is scheduled for late September, and is also now going to incorporate a run and a walk. That one was actually held last year, and everybody started at different locations along the course. It was very well done.
And where's that one?
It is based out of Sun Prairie, but it's hosted by Carbone Cancer, UW-Madison Carbone Cancer.
Yeah, I'll check that one out. There's one other one that's Loop the Lake, and I didn't include in here, and just came to mind. I think is because it's less focused on the biking, but it's kind of a biking, walking, whatever event, another fundraiser hosted by, I believe, Thousand Friends of Wisconsin, a waterway focused organization.
Yeah, many of the bike rides that were done previous to last year are on the docket to be done again this year. Horribly Hilly Hundreds is on the schedule for late August, I believe the Pie Ride in Janesville is happening in the middle of June. So quite a few of the events are coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also that event in Partyville, and the Dairyland Dare is sometime late summer too.
Yeah, it's first week of August.
So having missed, and Loop the Lake is Clean Lakes Alliance, not Thousand Friends. For folks who have been on this committee longer than I have been a staff here, so last year I missed out on a lot of these. Is this something that that the city has historically advertised, these various events, the Carbone Ride and Loop the Lake and Oracle Hillies and all these?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
No, like we typically just we mention them, but it's typically just the local ones that we really kind of promote.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, the Bike Fitchburg will be doing a Pick Me Up at the Border in September. The ride from race day events on the Badger State Trail at Sub-Zero Parkway to the Illinois border, or various intermediate turnaround points. That was held last year.
Yeah, and I did intentionally stop events in July here just because our next meeting is in June. And so I kind of figured the next couple months, but I'll definitely make sure that's included in the agenda for both June and August. Thanks.
Phil, one event you can publicize, I think, that is more for recreational type riders than racers is part of that Festival of Speed. There's a Fitchburg Family Pharmacy 25-mile ride, and I got a blurb from them yesterday because I'd done it in the past. That might be something to put out on the communication. It's a local ride, and it's that day of that Festival of Speed.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Then one other, it's not really an event as much, but I know Bike Fitchburg has been trying to start a Thursday late morning, early afternoon ride.
Yeah,
that's just you and Tony right now, right, Andy?
It's been kind of lonely. It's just been me and Tony so far, but we're trying to get more people.
I think those are the kinds of things I'm still slowly making improvements to the city's biking website, and I think these kinds of events should probably be on there somewhere.
It might be too soon to say whether it's going to happen this year, but 2 years ago there was a 608 ride to celebrate our area code, and Fitchburg had a 6.08 miles out, 6.08 miles back ride from the Funk's Pub. And so that was a chamber organized event. So check with Angela on that one to see if it's the Greater Madison Chamber, Visit Madison. They put the thing on, and Fitchburg Chamber and Funk's Pub had the local ride. And then there was a chicken sandwich for $6.08, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Phil, or anybody else in the committee under number item 5B? All right, we'll move into item 5C, which is updates on projects impacting our bike network. All these construction cones.
5B, I think still.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you covered it.
Oh no. So
okay,
that's
back up. My mistake.
Yeah. So 5B, planning bike events for May. So there are two things in here because it is National Bike Month. Two events that I kind of was thinking about and would like to know if these are things that the committee's interested in, if anybody would be interested in helping to organize this. One is, I don't remember if I mentioned in February that I was thinking about doing a sustainability bike tour of the city for Earth Month. And I just think after looking through that a little bit, talking with some different people, talking with Tony about Bike Fitchburg potentially being involved in that, it seems like doing that for National Bike Month makes a lot more sense. It was just going to be more reliable weather and a little bit more time to plan it. But we hadn't, I think especially coming out of this winter and a lot of time with people kind of self-isolating, we're all getting a little bit stir crazy, and I thought having an organized bike ride like that could be kind of nice. So what I was looking at here, and I don't have any sort of I guess plans put in stone right now, but I had kind of envisioned a ride something like this, where we'd start around the civic campus and ride around to just a few different locations that have some sustainability points of significance for Fitchburg. So, starting at civic campus and being able to talk about the solar panels on City Hall, the solar panels in the library, the LEED Gold building there, potentially biking up to McKee Farms Park and talking about the importance of just urban and suburban parks, Dolly Bike Hub and the Dolly Conservancy. Obviously, we'd have to bypass the Velo Underground, but we could take kind of the side ramp up to the Badger State Trail and then come down to race day events, potentially something around there. O'Brien Solar Project would be fun to talk about, and then Burn Park, the Burn retainment pond that the city's been working on in recent years. There's kind of a few ideas I had that this could be a Saturday event where there's a guided bike tour and 4 or 5 different stops over the course of an hour and a half, talking about a few of the sustainability things going on in Fitchburg, as well as just getting people out on their bikes. And so I've talked with Tony about this. He's definitely interested in Bike Fitchburg helping to put this on. But I also just kind of wanted to engage the committee in conversation on this as well, and see if this is something that anybody has thoughts on, if this has been a conversation in the past before my time here.
So I think this is similar to what Wade had put on with the Fitchburg Ag Tour, where it was the 4 or 5 stops, kind of go look at different agricultural practices and kind of the history of ag in Fitchburg. So conceptually, it seems very similar to that event. And I think that was a successful event that happened a few times. I think it kind of went away because it had been tied to Fitchburg days. And then once the festival went away, there wasn't that community event that was helping to kind of spur it on.
Okay, yeah, and I've talked with Wade about the agricultural bike tours, kind of getting some tips from him. My initial idea had been much more expansive and probably unrealistic. Would have turned into something like 2 to 3 hours, 20 plus miles. And this one right here, as I've got it set up, is under 9 miles, which I think is a lot more manageable. Though still hits a couple of pretty hilly sections that might be tough to avoid in Fitchburg, but definitely want to make it approachable, having picked up that tip from Wade.
I would recommend probably bypassing over onto Cannonball to avoid the hill on
this
Cap City.
Yeah, good call.
Except you can't get through there right now. So
through the Cannonball?
You can go up to Cannonball and then come back on the Seminole side path.
You can go up,
just to avoid the hill.
you could go up over the boardwalk, which would take us by some the stormwater ponds protecting Dunn's Marsh, up to Lovell Lane and down the Badger, south on the Badger. Would be another alternative. Since I've muted, the other precedent for this is that Rick Eilertson, our former environmental engineer, has done, I believe twice, a tour of stormwater practices down the Nine Springs Creek, which was a precedent for this kind of thing. And I would also be interested in going along, Phil, and helping in any way I can. And another thing that you might look into is contacting either Lenny's or B-Cycle to see if they would bring a van full of e-bikes out for registration. One of the first Fitchburg Ag past and present tours, they had an e-bike demonstration on the Badger just at the start where people could try e-bikes, and but they weren't available for taking a ride, but that might be possible.
Yeah, I can definitely check in with B-Cycle and Lenny's and see if they'd be able to do that. I think especially then that would, for people who maybe don't have their own bike or who might be intimidated by the, even an 8 or 9 mile ride or some of the hills, that could be a nice way to get them involved as well.
Don't forget the wind turbine demonstrator at McKee Farms Park.
Ah, right. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Another good reason to stop there. Yeah, and are there any other locations around here that make sense? And of course, thinking about places that are sustainability related, that ideally would have space for, I would think just for the purposes of safety, we'd look to cap this around 20 or 25 people, or I guess if we had more people signing up, we could split it into a couple of different groups, but places where, upwards of 20 or 25 people could stand around with their bikes for 5 or 10 minutes and chat and not be in danger themselves or be an obstruction to anyone else.
Yeah.
And then that's
Phil,
the one thing
I'd add to that, I think as you plan these rides, you need someone leading and someone bringing up the rear. So you got to have a caboose and an engine, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah. And Tony and I mentioned that a little bit. So I think it sounds like he's really interested in Bike Fitchburg helping to coordinate this and help plan it out. And I would imagine somebody from Bike Fitchburg would probably be leading the cohort, and I'd plan to be there and kind of bring up the caboose.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let Bike Fitchburg help lead this.
Yep. And then I guess one other question is, for a group of potentially 20, 25 people, the only place where I really have this tour going on any frequently used roads is Lacey Road. And do you feel that's safe enough for a group that size, or should I look to maybe do a different reroute, possibly coming back up Badger and doing Schumann through Seminole Forest or something like that? Steve?
I think Lacey Road is fine. It's flat. There's safety in numbers. About 50% of the route will be on a place where you have an extra lane, the bypass lane around the middle school and Devoro is an extra lane between you and most of the traffic. You could also turn down Muchler instead of Osmondson. I don't think it makes a bit of difference. You've got the route that I would normally take. It's a good route.
Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, so I'll move forward with that. Definitely, please reach out if you're interested in participating in this in any way. I'll as things are moving forward, we're not going to have another committee meeting before May. So as more stuff gets planned, I'll make sure to reach out to all of you and keep you in the loop. The other one, because we are kind of we're supposed to be at the next item by now, and I just want to cover this one really quickly. I also would really like to do this. Was my idea for Earth Month last year, and then everything kind of went crazy, and I'm going to keep using that refrain for at least the next couple months. But sorry, I just got an email from Andrew McFadden asking to get the link for this meeting. I'm not sure how that didn't make it to him, but I will forward that real quick. The other thing I was thinking of that I'd wanted to do last year is having a bike commuter workshop. And again, I think this aligns really well with National Bike Month. We're getting into Bike to Work Week, Bike to School Day, and all that stuff. So, again, talking with Tony and Bike Fitchburg and possibly trying to loop in race day if we want to think about using indoor space at that point. They've got that large kind of warehousey space, possibly looping in a local company like Fitchburg Cycles. I just think it'd be really cool, whether it's an in-person event or an online webinar, or even just putting some materials together and making those available online. I think it'd be really nice to have a bike commuting overview for people who might be interested in biking more often, but just kind of not sure where to start or intimidated by some of the logistics of it. Yeah, Mark?
Phil, we have a couple people on this committee like Andy and Angie who bike to work every day, and maybe include them in some of those discussions.
For
What
sure.
works, how do you got to dress? In Andy's case, since he rides with Tony Hartman in between work, how do you blend that all together? But I think that'll be good. Get some people who are doing it on a regular basis.
And I definitely have plenty of experience doing kind of presentations, educational event kind of things. I think if anybody has experience doing specifically something on this topic, that'd be a really good resource as well. But yeah, definitely Andy and Angie, I would be picking your brain a little bit while putting this together. And certainly, if you wanted to be involved in something like this, I'd be happy to have you.
And Phil, I also would love to volunteer. I not anymore, but used to bike commute year round.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Ellie.
Okay, Steve's got his
Steve?
hand up. Then we need to move to the next item.
Yep.
Just want to make sure that Phil knows about rideshare, etc. There is quite an extensive thing on bike commuting there, resources. And I think importantly, because many people who live in Fitchburg may commute to Madison, there's an opportunity to sign up for a ride buddy. Either you're willing to mentor someone who is interested in that, or you're looking for someone to get the hang of riding in traffic, that kind of thing. So check that out as you plan your event.
Will do. Thanks.
Okay. All right, I'm going to keep us moving and trying to stick to the agenda. We've got some important things to cover. So I will next turn it over to Mr. Andrew McFadden and Mr. Phil Groupie. Talk about projects.
Sure. I'll go through these really quickly. Andrew, thanks for joining. Sorry if we can get you that link right away.
Oh, no worries.
But I'll go through this pretty quickly, and definitely please do jump in if I miss anything, or if anything could use additional context, and then we've got Andrew here if people have any questions. So the project's impacting the bike network. There's a lot of repeat offenders from previous months. We're all familiar with a lot of these by now. We have the Fish Hatchery reconstruction. We've just gotten to the stage where some temporary lights have been put at the Fish Hatchery and McKee intersection. So we're moving forward with that one. That'll take up much of the spring, summer, and fall. That Fish Hatchery will be down to one lane in each direction. But at the conclusion of that, the multi-use path that is currently extended down to about Traceway Drive is going to make it all the way down the west side of Fish Hatchery Road to McKee. There's going to be some improvements at the McKee Fish Hatchery intersection as well. So once that's done, that should be a significant improvement for cyclists in the area using one of our key north-south arterial routes. The Mccoy Mm intersection, I missed this, but I believe, was it last month, there was a public meeting on this intersection?
I think it's, yeah, I want to say February.
Or late February, maybe?
Yep.
Did anybody here attend that? Mark and Steve did?
And I'll note, we did have some follow-up specifically about the right turn channelizing. I know there was some concern about that. I think, I worked with our traffic engineer design team, and I think we have a kind of elegant solution to get folks across that. And I can definitely
I would agree with Andrew. Seemed to be the big sticking point, was how do you make that right turn and get people safely across. So.
And so is it, so I have not kept up with the updates there. Are we still having are you talking about the right turn, the slip lane that had been proposed from McCoy going down to southbound MM?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And if you guys want to, I can dive into what we came up with single timing. Otherwise, I can just send you guys kind of what the progression we're looking at doing will be.
If you want to do just like a high level,
yeah,
20-30 second overview and then send the details out to the committee, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You might have to unshare. Sorry.
Yep.
All right. So hopefully you guys can see this okay.
So the default progression, I think this is what folks were worried about, the kind of 2 stops. So you would cross this leg. This is similar to like John Nolan Drive, with the trail crossing there. And then you have to wait here and then cross MM. And so what we're proposing instead would be to have basically bike speed progression. You could get all the way across the intersection using that bike speed. As a pedestrian, if you push the walk here, you can get across here, and then you'll have an additional phase afterwards here to walk. So similarly, you might have to wait a few seconds, but you'll be able to, but anywhere you push the button, you'll be able to cross kind of in one, more or less one phase through that intersection. So I think that's a somewhat elegant solution to avoid that unnecessary delay. You will still have to push the button, but it should be pretty snappy. We're not going to coordinate this with anything. And then we are proposing, if you do push the button, we'll be putting a blank out sign there, no right turn, kind of making that very clear to drivers that at that point, there's somebody crossing, you can't make that right turn across it because they'll have a red with that associated movement. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I can definitely send this to you guys. I know I sent this out to Steve just to get his initial thoughts. So any questions are welcome.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Yep, I can go on with there you go. Back over here with the next projects. So South Cyan Road rework continues. This one again, there was a public meeting. It sounds like things are moving along. I thought I took some notes on this myself, but I'm not seeing them right now. But I know there's still conversation going on about how to handle, there had been some discussion about some on-street parking kind of up here around Nine Bark. And that's still, am I correct, Andrew? That's still kind of in discussion phase right now, kind of figuring out what the best way is to handle that.
Yeah, we started meeting with property owners. We're going to continue meeting this week and next week just to sort out kind of what facilities they want, what kind of cross-sectional elements they want in that block, how we can fit it all in kind of a relatively tight right of way. So I think that's the kind of next step. But once we get over that, then we'll kind of be summarizing what we heard about all the intersection control options, kind of the general lighting, the general cross-sectional elements, and some of the alternatives, specifically like up at Mccoy and Cyan. We initially started with a roundabout and a continuous T, continuous green intersection there, basically a traffic signal. The roundabout didn't really seem like a great option just from a traffic perspective and from kind of the right of way it would need with the adjacent wetlands. But one option could be to realign that intersection. I think this might have came up in the public meeting. So I kind of want to offer those kind of 2 alternatives. If there's any quick notes on that we would realign it so that Mccoy would tee into Cyan instead of the other way around. So those, I guess, are true options. We're looking at traffic signals in either way. The benefit of having a T into kind of that new configuration would be that it would work a lot better with the trail crossing just to the north of it. If we don't realign and kind of stick with the current configuration and do a signal, I would probably suggest an angled pedestrian bicycle crossing there at the trail crossing north of the intersection. Where you would enter one way and kind of go along the median, and I can show you a quick quick diagram of that. That'll be helpful. If I can find it. But you know what I'm talking about, like kind of a Z curve. And so I guess the justification on that would be that it allows pedestrian and bicyclists to kind of see oncoming vehicles, slows down the crossing a little bit, and also gives us a little bit more space away from the intersection. I think the initial problem we saw in a kind of early 2020 bike crash there was some of the queuing spilling back from the intersection blocked the visibility of the bicyclist.
Mark? Andrew,
Yep.
I have a question. we also talked about at that meeting, and you did a nice job trying to manage that. That was a pretty hostile meeting. It wasn't over the road plan. But my comment is, if you come down the hill there past that the historic house, that trail is totally disintegrating as it gets down to go past the golf park place. And I raised that to Kim Lobdell when she was on that call and Kim's staff. Have you guys gone over and looked at that? Because it's real. I was over on it 2 days ago. It's getting worse.
We haven't yet, but yeah, that's definitely something we're considering. I know we're going to have to reconstruct some of that trail, kind of adjacent to the DNR facility there, just from kind of changing grades, and that, you know, we're going to drop the roadway down, so we'll have to do that. So I think it's definitely a potential for us to redo all of that. I know
Just please leave it on your follow-up list, please.
Yep, I know there's a bridge in there as well that, and so we'll have to look into what that would look like tying in that. But so finally found that diagram. This is kind of what I'm referring to, and this is maybe less of a severe option. Another option would be to kind of angle it and then kind of have a little bit more aggressive taper. So it's just depending upon what the width we can get. But, you know, if you kind of rotate this and pretend that this is the trail crossing, it gives us a little more flexibility with where these trails enter the road. And then, you know, gives us a little bit more width here, and I guess a two-stage crossing that folks can cross here. A northbound vehicle could still see that cross, you know, crossing bicyclist or pedestrian, and kind of manage that conflict a little bit better. So that's definitely one option we're looking at if we don't realign the intersections. If we do realign the intersections, we'll probably do something similar to what we're doing at McCoy. Though there will be consideration. So those are kind of the two options there. I know that was a lot of focus at the trail crossing specifically there. So if you have any comments, feel free to raise them.
Andrew?
Yep.
Is the intention to extend the South Cyan side path in front of the McCoy house?
No, that's not currently being proposed. We could potentially have some, you know, similar to other cycle tracks in that area. We could kind of have it merge onto the on-street bike facility ahead and after the McCoy house. Now that we'll have,
it sounds like the property owner's open to it as long as it's fits within nearly the current footprint. Angie knows better about that.
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit to the Gribs, and I think generally that I don't think that would fit well. But we can definitely talk. I mean, that hasn't been talked. I haven't talked to the Gribs about that specifically. It doesn't sound. I haven't heard that exactly, that sentiment from them. So
I think you
we
should
can revisit it.
They are active bikers and support biking, so I think they are worth being part of any conversation that happens over there.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So they're definitely invited with the rest of the neighbors kind of on that block for what we can fit in there and not, and, you know, preserve as many trees as possible. But I know that generally, you know, that is kind of a good detour out of the way. I think if a compromise would be to kind of merge it with the on-street facilities and merge it back, I think that'd be another way to kind of, for folks who are trying to get through there faster. But we are definitely talking about buffered bike lanes on the roadway, as well as the existing shared use path there.
All right, cool. Again, as we learn more, we'll try to keep the bike committee engaged in that. Got 5 minutes left on this topic, so I'll try to move us forward there. So we've got there aren't really any updates that I know of on the sewerage district, the Nine Springs Valley interceptor improvements. Bike roundabout is still closed. That is still slated to be completed December of this year, but there are a number of locations where you can find the reroutes, the detours for that path. Cap City Trail Reconstruction Phase 4. So initially the original plan, and again, we've talked about this, the initial plan was to do this in 3 stages. And Phase 3 last year would have gone all the way to Verona Road. They stopped at the roundabout, and this year they're looking at ways to address some ongoing flooding concerns with the roundabout. And once the sewerage district project is done with that interceptor improvement, then they're going to look at planning the continuation of their rework on the Cap City Trail to Verona Road. So that's they're hoping to plan it this year, and I'm not sure then if the construction will happen this fall or if they'll push that into 2022. But that'll be the final phase of the Cap City Trail reconstruction from Dane County Parks. We also have the upcoming Lacey Road reconstruction. So this is one where currently Lacey Road has some bike lanes that are extending as far as the Badger State Trail, maybe just beyond, and the whole of Lacey Road from Seminole Highway over to Fitchburg Road is going to undergo some reconstructions. There's been 1 or 2 public meetings about this. A number of public documents are out there, and we're kind of, right now the question is how wide to extend this. Basically, it's going to be 1 lane each direction. A question of whether there will be a median for people crossing the street to have kind of that break in between crossing lanes. The question about on-street bike lanes in addition to a multi-use path versus just having a multi-use path along the north side and not bike lanes. And these are ongoing discussions. There's been a lot of communication with community members. But that is that planning will continue through this summer and should have design completed by the fall. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And we're having weekly meetings with kind of a small advisory group from kind of neighborhood constituents, talking through some of these elements. I think the latest we came up with was potentially removing the buffered bike lanes on street, but then widening the path, specifically to give a little bit more separation from cyclists around the hill near Commerce Park Drive. I think there's probably a happy medium somewhere in here. Looking at other typical cross sections of this type, we're looking at roughly 30 feet, 10-foot travel lanes with 5-foot on-street facilities or painted shoulders. So that might be something that we kind of look at. But again, we're really just trying to balance cost, preserving kind of like the character of the street and the trees there, but trying to get a new facility in there to as high of comfort as possible.
Steve, really quickly.
Yeah. Has there been any progress on undergrounding utilities?
We're not looking to underground utilities there. I think we quoted something like $1 million a mile, so that would be.
I took a picture of the trees at the one place where they're constraining, and it's very clear that the trees on the south side are the ones to go because they've been very badly damaged from pruning around the power lines. So I don't think that tree preservation should be the reason to remove the buffered bike lanes and the path. And Bike Fitchburg is going to be asking for buffered bike lanes.
Okay. Yeah, we did get a tree survey done. We have type, width, circumference, diameter, and condition. So we definitely have that information. We're taking that into account as far as high value trees and which ones will be lost, depending upon which elements are included.
All right, thanks. I'll jump on to the next one real quick. Just a list of the other projects scheduled for 2021. Again, we have seen a number of these in the past, a couple of new additions. Late April, the McKee Road, the multi-use path on the south side between Seminole Highway and Commerce Park Drive will be temporarily closed. We don't have exact dates on that one yet. Is that, Andrew, is that related to that? What we had talked about with the two, so there were some emails that had, or Facebook messages from Bike Fitchburg about concerns about those 2 right turns by Commerce Park Drive, or is this a separate issue?
I think it's a separate issue. I believe that might be related to utility work. I'm not sure. Yeah, we are, but specifically to that at Commerce Park Drive and McKee, we are looking at adding a stone in there to make that kind of switch back a little bit easier for folks. So.
And that's just, there had been Mark and Andy went out and took some pictures, and some people with Bike Fitchburg had raised this concern, just that when you're riding that multi-use trail, this was on the south side of McKee Road, that there were a couple of sharp right turns that a number of cyclists were kind of cutting this corner. So we're looking at ways to make this a little bit easier to ride through while also not getting just a big mud pile in the in the middle of a grassy area. So thanks for jumping on that and looking at solutions so quickly. I think that pretty well covers 5C, Mark.
Okay, let's move on to 5D, bike data collection. Phil?
So this is again a continuation of a conversation we had in February. It's largely the same information here with just a little bit of an addition. So still talking about one of the top priorities for improving our bike-friendly community status from silver to gold is getting additional data on how many people are riding around Fitchburg. And we had talked about a couple of different options. One being EcoCounter that does a little bit more robust and visual and present displays and counter options, and then Trafex, which is what Dane County Parks currently uses over on the Cap City Trail by the bike roundabout. Kind of the difference being that EcoCounter is significantly more robust in terms of its options, but also a bit more expensive. Another one that Andy, I don't remember if you mentioned this in February, but certainly has come up since then, is Strava, which is an app that you can download, and it will track if you're a runner, if you're a cyclist. You can hook up, you either bring your phone with you or hook up a GPS tracking device to your Strava app, and it will track the routes you take. So this is a map that Andy pulled just from Strava's kind of aggregation of cyclist data in the Fitchburg area, and you can kind of see these just a really nice visualization of where people are cycling around Fitchburg. So with white being the highest trafficked areas, and then yellow is next down to the kind of orange and red is less frequent visitors. So you can see all of the bike trails coming through Fitchburg. You've got the mountain bike tracks here at Dolly and at Quarry Hill Ridge. So this would be another option potentially, would be submitting. I was looking a little bit through Strava's website, still have some more research to do on that. But while users can pay for a more advanced account and get access to data, it looks like Strava also has a Strava Metro option that they're really trying to encourage cities to get involved there and access their data. And I believe it may actually, if we submit an application and if it looks like, if they see promise in it, I think we may be able to get access to Strava data for the area for free. So that's still something I want to look into more. Strava looks pretty awesome. They had examples here of some reports that have been done looking at Strava data and kind of using that to help inform city infrastructure planning. And I love the idea of what's going on with a lot of these. The drawback is this data comes from people using Strava. So, what percent of your population is that? Are you really getting a comprehensive look at all of the people who need access to your walking and biking infrastructure around a city? So it's something that would be, here we go, I can put this together that I didn't have in February. So just kind of a quick pro and con list of these 3 different options that we could look at, and something to consider is both EcoCounter and Trafex are going to have costs associated with acquiring them. So this is going to be something that if we're going to push forward with requesting one of those, this is going to go into the capital budget request for 2022 and beyond. And we certainly would hope that would be funded. There's a possibility that it wouldn't be. We'd have to think about what to do, to potentially seek funding in that situation. So that's where Strava would be a benefit if it is indeed free to get that Strava Metro data. But of course, EcoCounter and Trafex will capture everyone going through certain locations. Now they also, EcoCounter and Trafex only track people where you put the counters. Strava captures people everywhere as long as they're using the app. So kind of this cost benefit for each one It's definitely something else I'll be looking into research and having some discussions. But if there are any additional thoughts on that from the committee, I definitely would take those into account. I guess Mark, you want to go first?
Real quickly, Phil, when do we have to have a decision to put in your capital budget? What is that deadline?
I'm not sure on the deadline right now. The budget conversations are going to be starting up in the next month or so. I believe, don't hold me to this, I want to say it's late June, but I would need to go back and double check that.
I just don't want us to lose that, because I personally, this is my opinion, I see this as one of the most important things with getting our move to gold, because we were really way out of whack with how things were counted. So, and my only concern with Strava, as you said, and Andy, I'll let you weigh in here. You got to have it and use it. And do all our riders in the city, are they all running out there with their phones? It's just an observation. So I don't know, Andy, you might want to weigh into that.
Sure. So I know. So I know that's something that they talk about, and definitely not everyone's using Strava. I mean, not everyone's using an app, period, much less using Strava specifically. According to them, they have ways to kind of account for that, and they sort of know the sampling size of how many people are actually using Strava out of the larger population. So supposedly you can extrapolate from their data as to what that means for the total. Sorry, I've got a visitor here. But I guess the other piece with Strava, I know, Phil, you've got it listed as being GIS. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I'll send you the link. They actually have a kind of a nice interface on their website.
Okay.
It's a sample using live data specifically from like downtown Denver, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's pretty nice breakdown in terms of, within Strava you can signify if you're commuting or if it's just a recreational ride. So it gives you that data. It also lets you know, kind of based on the home zip code of the riders, where they're actually coming from, in terms of, are these people that are residents of your city? Are these people coming from out of state? So, and again, if it ends up being free, then I don't know that it's necessarily an either or proposition here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we could use more targeted counters to get more robust data, but then in those specific locations and kind of collect everybody. But then if Strava's free, also look into that for more of a broad look at the city. Yeah. Angie?
I know that the city used Strava before there was a bike committee. Tony Hartman actually ran the Strava data on Wayland Road, which is how we managed to get any of Wayland with paved shoulders, because of the heat maps and the number of people that were riding at the time. That was now quite a while ago. Don't even remember exactly when, but so Strava has been used by Fitchburg in the past. It is questionable because a lot of people don't have it. I use it, but I just use the free app on it. I don't pay to use it. And I'm not completely sure how accurate it really is. And the reason I say that was Sunday I was riding hill repeats up Wayland Road, and I went up and down Wayland Road and down much lower and back around and back up 6 times on Sunday afternoon. And it only marked it as 1 time. So I'm not so sure on exactly how accurate it is. I'm attempting to keep, I at this point have the most number of rides up that hill, and I was attempting to keep that, but and also to do rides.
It's just because you were going so fast, you got to slow down so you can keep up with
Yeah, I don't think so, but it was just kind of interesting. I think it's a fun tool for me to goof around with, but I don't know how completely accurate it is.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely good to be aware of. Steve?
Yeah, I think you need both. You need absolute counts on certain segments so that you can calibrate your area-wide data. So, you know, there's a certain percentage of people using apps and a certain percentage of those are using Strava. But if you get absolute counts, say at the roundabout for those people, then you can calibrate the Strava and use it for the relative rates of riding all around the city, putting aside the sampling bias you already mentioned. The other
Sure.
thing, so I recognize that Strava is going to, Strava Metro is going to take staff time, so it's not free, but it should be complementing absolute counter data. The other thing is that I wanted to mention that a similar to Strava Metro is Streetlight, which is something that Madison uses. So you might want to look into that. I think that they get around the issue of sample selection by using Bluetooth devices, because people don't have to be running an app, they just have to be carrying a phone or something else with a Bluetooth ID on it. I may be wrong about that, but I know that you should look into Streetlight.
Yep, and that's another one I do get regular communications from them, and that's something that I just have been looking to dig into a little bit more. But it looks like there's a lot to explore here. So yeah, definitely another good potential option to look into.
Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun. And I did want to say that I think that there's an opportunity because of the Madison Sewer project. That's a $4.2 million project. So the putting in an eco counter at the roundabout when they reconstruct it would be kind of a rounding error on the size of that project. So I'm hoping to propose a change order to Mad Sewer to have them do that as a community.
Yeah, I did reach out to Mad Sewer in Dane County Parks, and it didn't sound like it sounded like all the budget was pretty set in stone.
Okay, well, I'm still hoping and looking for maybe a fundraising angle to maybe get them to match part of it or something like that.
Is there anything else on this? I'm trying to keep track of our time here as the timekeeper. Have we lost folks? Phil looks frozen. Angela, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to start because I think Phil's frozen. So you're going to talk to us about Bike the Berg. Are you back, Phil?
I am. Sorry, got a little bit of an unstable connection right now.
Well, Phil, I transitioned to Angela, so I've introduced her.
Perfect.
She's got her cup of coffee, and are you ready to talk about Bike the Berg, Angela?
Yeah, sure. I'll just take a few minutes of your time. Hi, everyone. We are just launching a Bike the Berg challenge. It's a challenge to our residents and visitors to bike more in Fitchburg. So it's just a really simple campaign, and we are encouraging all of you to participate and share the news. And then hoping maybe we can, increase some of our mileage, expose people to some new routes and biking options in Fitchburg. We will be launching the website in about 2 weeks, I believe. And it's just a very simple campaign. We're challenging people to bike 150 miles between May and September. I know most of you will do that in May or less. But it's really to encourage people who maybe don't get out as much and to get on the trails. You register on the Bike the Berg website. For $10 extra, you can register and get a cool Bike the Berg t-shirt. You keep track of your miles and you can win prizes. At the end of the season, we'll have some kind of drawings and raffles and giveaways. One of the things that we've added to the site that we're kind of hopeful about is a submit your ride or submit your meetup. So if people are having a meetup ride, so I know there's groups that maybe meet at Oak Bank and they're going to go out and ride a particular time, a particular route, they can easily submit it on the website, and other people could join you. So we're hoping it encourages maybe some new connections and some people that want to ride together, give them a good option for that. It'll also have organized rides, obviously, such as like Bike for Boys and Girls Club and other rides that are organized by organizations that have more of a structure to it. But we do want to encourage people to log in meetup rides, is what we're calling them. I would love to send the draft link of the website to this group and then receive feedback. And if has everybody's, or maybe people have seen it already. Have people seen it or not? No?
No,
Okay.
the whole committee has.
Okay. So I'd love to send the draft website to you guys and get your feedback. We're trying to keep it very simple. It's just a really simple challenge, but we will be marketing the site quite a bit through the summer. And again, I guess the ways that this group could help is if you would like to post meetups or organized rides on the site to encourage others to join you, that would be great. We do also have a spot on the site for some recommended routes, and we can change those or add to them throughout the year. Everything from, like the 25 mile ride to Paoli or around the Lake Loop, or even short kind of family rides that are all on trails, 6 or 7 miles on the bike trails. Anybody, I can show you, I think I'll just send you the link. I can show you my screen, but it's easier to tool around it on your own time, I think, than to show you my screen this morning. Anybody have any questions for me?
Angela, I did volunteer Tony to come ride the 150 with me on May 1st. So we'll try to get it all done on the first day.
That's awesome. We should have a special category just for that, Andy. Or maybe we'll do 150 miles per day through the summer, Andy. How about that?
That might be a bit much.
Yeah, so other communities do this. We've had, or something similar. Sun Prairie did a Pedal the Prairie last year. They had a really nice turnout. Other communities around the country do this. It's kind of a biking challenge. We'd love to be able to build off of this each year. And so we've thought we'd create the website, make it simple this year, and see what kind of engagement we can get and build on that each year. So we're really open to feedback and suggestions and participation.
Angela, just a comment. I think I shared this with you when I saw this earlier. I think a massive media blitz campaign so people know about this through our schools, through our businesses, through the bike shop, our taverns that are in town, all those folks knowing that how you can go sign up. The more people you get it to, the more you're going to get interested in signing up. So
Yeah,
again, my 2 cents. Other than that, it looks great to me.
Yeah, and we'll help, be asking for all your assistance on that, sharing it and participating. We'll see how it goes, but we might be doing some kind of, I'm certain we might even have some sponsored rides from certain businesses, but again, really trying to make it simple for people to participate and engage, and hopefully make some new connections and friends on the bike trails.
Angela?
Yeah.
Does it look like there's going to be a 608 ride this year?
I haven't heard yet, but I'm in a Destination Madison meeting next week, so I can bring that up. I don't even know what day that is. It's like, well, it's June 8th, right?
Yeah, right.
Whatever day of the week that is. But I should bring that up. But those kind of things are great that we can, promote along with our region, but also, on our own kind of site to encourage meetups. So I know that there is, obviously we have the Bike for Boys and Girls Club ride. The Fitchburg Festival of Speed is happening this year, so there'll be a 25 mile ride associated with that. I feel like we have another one, an organized ride, but I can't remember.
The one that's cooperatively advertising with you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you'll get 150 miles in on that ride. The Bike for the Border. So we've got some good rides organized, but like I said, we'd love to promote meetups too. So again, I'm going to send out the link today, right after I get off this call. Maybe I'll send it to, I think I have everybody's email on here, but I might just send it to Phil and Mark and ask them to share it. And then you guys, please feel free to give us feedback. we'll probably go live with it in a couple weeks here. We want to make sure we get it live before biking month in May.
Angela, send it to me too, and I'll send it to the Bike Fitchburg board.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
And I'm hoping you can stay on for the next agenda item because I'm hoping to give the same presentation to your board.
Okay, will do.
Questions for Angela?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, thank you, Angela. Good to hear from you. I think it's a great thing, and I hope it goes well in its first year. So the next item on the agenda is the Fitchburg Greenway proposal. Steve is our guest today from Bike Fitchburg, and I will turn the phone or the video conferencing over to him.
Thank you, Bart. I'll try to share my screen. I want that one. Can you see my presentation?
Yep.
Very good. Okay, so this is something that occurred to me while I was mapping the new side path along Fish Hatchery Road that was constructed last year that will be continued this year. I presented to the Bike Fitchburg board and they unanimously approved to make it a Bike Fitchburg project. Subsequently, we took it to the Park Commission, and the Park Commission was enthusiastic and asked staff to continue to study and try to advance this idea. And that is why Scott Endel is with us. Thanks for joining, Scott. And so this is today. So what's a greenway? A greenway is generally a linear park. It is set up for non-motorized transportation, generally vegetated, and may often have a waterway in it as well. This is in your, this presentation that was ancillary to your packet. It wasn't in the main packet, but if anybody needs this, you can get it either from the agenda link or directly from me.
Yeah, and apologies for that, Steve. I tried to attach this to the packet like 5 different times. And I just kept getting errors.
Okay, no problem. So I just wanted to put this in the context of the hierarchy we have. Everybody's familiar with the hierarchy of motorways, but not so many people are aware that there is a similar hierarchy for bicycle routes. The U.S. bicycle route system actually now goes through Madison. U.S. Bike Route 30 connects the ferry at Milwaukee to Michigan over to the Mississippi River. State trails connect counties around our trails. Regional trails connect urban areas, and Dane County has been particularly good at trying to pave shoulders and provide trails that connect the municipalities in Dane County and Dane County's parks. A greenway is a local road a local bike trail that connects neighborhoods. And then the ones that I'm going to be talking about are not all the bike paths that are in Fitchburg. There are a lot of small connecting ones that connect neighborhoods into the trail system. So the characteristics of a greenway, they support people who bike and walk. They prohibit motor vehicles except for maintenance and emergencies. They're generally vegetated. I've already said this. To support two-way bike traffic, they have to be 3 meters or 10 feet wide. And when traffic is heavy, like along the Capital City Trail at Monona Terrace, you need to be even wider or separate pedestrians from bikes and other wheeled traffic. And this is what I'm calling the Nobel Greenway, currently existing in the Fahey Field subdivision on a rainy, beautiful night. So to establish a greenway system in Fitchburg, I'm seeing these steps. We have to recognize our existing assets, and this presentation is part of that process. We have to officially designate these as a system. We have to map the greenway phases. And the main difference between what we have now and a Greenway system is going to be signage and promotion. So the hard assets, the asphalt and the concrete, are already in place. And what we're proposing to do is start publicizing, because a lot of people know that there's a bike path in front of their place of business or behind their house, but they don't know where the system goes. And they're not aware that they can get, for example, from the Leopold neighborhood to our library or our dog park or our splash pad, all on off-road facilities that are safe and comfortable, even for kids and beginning bicyclists. So we need to plan and secure funding and install the signage. Some of that is designation signage, like this is the Fish Hatchery Greenway, and some of it is wayfinding signage, like dog park, 3.5 miles. We need to eliminate bottlenecks and gaps as opportunities and funding permit, and we need to improve the right-of-way or crossings. I'm going to cover these steps as we go on. We want to expand this to underserved neighborhoods. Right now, it's mostly newer and more affluent neighborhoods in Fitchburg that have this system. And we have ongoing maintenance. And the nice thing about this is that all of this ongoing maintenance is already being done, which I will show you more about. So I'm using my scroll wheel, and that's a little insensitive. So this is the inspiration. This is what I'm calling the Fish Hatchery Greenway, a traceway. You can see it's 10 foot wide. It's got a buffer against the retaining wall, so you don't hit your handlebar on it. Curb ramps. These markings designate a bike crossing compared to solid markings. They're called elephant tracks, and they're being properly used here. And there will be traffic signals here, as you can see on the right. Those are going in this summer. So this is the candidate greenways. You can see here in the violet, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the left side, the Badger State Trail, the Cap City Trail, are regional trails. This is the Open Streets Map, bicycle map version. The local trails include the extension of the Military Ridge. This is the Military Ridge Path in Fitchburg's jurisdiction, the Cannonball Path in Fitchburg's jurisdiction, and then the Cannonball Path in Madison. So they are already designated, and people say, oh yeah, I know where the Cannonball Path goes. So if you compare that to the Fish Hatchery Greenway, which is coming down Fish Hatchery Road, it's this light dashed gray line. Can people see that? They don't know where that goes. They don't know that it goes from the Beltline frontage road for 4.2 miles down to Whalen Road. So you can see a lot of them are in our newer neighborhoods in Alder District 3 here, and in the east side, Alder District 4, all the way out to Terra Vista. This is the city line. This is the proposed side path that Andrew was talking about earlier along Lacey Road. It already exists down here. You can see the fine dashed blue line is an existing path, but the Greenway is proposed to go all the way along here. And we haven't talked about it, but future construction will fill this gap along Seminole Highway and this gap along the Verona schools. So the steps in Fitchburg will be to have a staff and park commission study, introduce a resolution by the Common Council to accept the idea of the system, recommendations from all different departments like police and public works, referral to the park commission for public input recommendation. Perhaps other committees would and commissions would review it. Common Council will take final action. And then I expect that there would be a phased implementation over time as funding permits. This is just an example of the kind of data in OpenStreetsMap. This is the intersection of East Sherrill Drive, and South Fish Hatchery. And you can see the bike paths along here. This is the existing side path, the bicycle crossing to Sherrill, and then the side path that goes down East Sherrill Parkway. This highlighted segment here is the one whose data are here. It's a former sidewalk. It's only 5 feet wide, and it shows the kind of, there are several bottlenecks. I'll show you a picture of another one where when this intersection is someday reconstructed, then this bottleneck should be relieved up to a 10-foot width. I note here that the parks maintenance staff knows this area very well because this entire side path has to be plowed with special equipment because of this narrow point. You can't use a pickup truck like they generally use to control ice and snow on our bike paths. This is the kind of signage we're talking about. This was the existing signage of the roundabout that will be restored after the Mad Sewer project. You notice the bike and ped symbols. Some of these are directional, and some of them say, well, you're actually on the Capital City State Trail. They could be brown instead of green to distinguish them from the street signs that they will be mounted nearby. There would also be welcome signs like at Fish Hatchery and Greenway Cross. You might have a sign that says, welcome to the Fish Hatchery Greenway. Another one at the south end at Whalen Road. I would expect maps of the system at some key junctions listed here. And I'm working on cost estimates for the signage for the additional segment. One of the problems here is that we've got this really valuable asset that nobody knows about, this system, and it's not budgeted by the city to work on this and to send Andrew or Phil out to work on it. So we are doing a lot of work at Bike Fitchburg on a volunteer basis to advance this project, so as see if we can get the project done while minimizing the cost to the city. But down the road, there would be hard costs for signs. We want to improve the network over time by filling gaps, mitigating bottlenecks. Some of the old crossings do not comply with current ADA standards. Some busy areas still need pedestrian signals. Some pedestrian signals still need to be upgraded to countdown timers. In some busy places, I would argue MM and McCoy Road, for example, we should remove buttons and instead have pedestrian and bicycle detectors, so that as folks approach the intersection, just like when you're driving, the signal knows you're there and will change for you. And some of the crossings are unmarked and need some paint. This is an example of an improved crossing, not on our system, but on the regional system. This is the Capital City Trail at Cyan Road, which we were just talking about. This is at 2016, right after Sherry Maples had her ultimately fatal crash. And this is what it looked like after the reconstruction. You can see now we have stripes, we have center lines, we have detectable warnings. And so what we do not have here between the stripes is green paint like Madison is using. Here's an example of that on the southwest path at Glenway. City of Madison crews are, last summer, were putting these enhanced visibility crosswalks in. And in busy places, this raises motorist awareness that there may be bicyclists here. This is another example of a gap. I'm not talking about the sewer project that interrupted what I'm calling the Fahey Fields Greenway, connecting to the McGaw Park Access Road. I am talking about this green terrace here, which should have a asphalt ramp across it to access the McGaw Greenway, which what I'm calling the McGaw Greenway, that runs along the McGaw Access Road. And Scott Endel and Joran and I met at the site, and we've got a plan to put some asphalt in here this summer. During the city's concrete contract, we get another detectable warning here. But these are the kinds of gaps that need to be filled. So the bike facilities are unevenly distributed. We have them because we have good land division and development ordinances that require them. We have good neighborhood plans that map them out in new neighborhoods, but the old neighborhoods don't have them. So the blue outlines are our healthy neighborhood initiative areas where we know that the neighborhoods are underserved. Many of the residents don't have cars. And you notice that none of the proposed greenways, which are here in the violet as if they were done, none of them extend into these areas. There's some bike lanes like on Williamsburg Way and Post Road, but we need to be conscious about extending these in the long term, this greenway system into all of our neighborhoods and welcome everyone who lives in Fitchburg to the Greenway System and all the wonderful things that we have to offer. Greenway System has to be maintained, snow and ice control, vegetation management, not only mowing, but also beating back the brush that will eventually overtake the path if we don't do that, crack sealing and periodic repaving, crossing and centerline paint, and litter removal. Now the litter removal is something that can be done by friends groups, and we have not yet established friends groups for paths. Both Saris and the Crossing Homeowners Association volunteered to be a friends group and maintain their path back when I was mayor. But as far as I know, that has not been implemented anywhere in the city. We do need a lot more paint, and I think that Public Works is more aware of that now that we have clear guidance from Dane County that crosswalks like the completely worn off crosswalk across Fish Hatchery at McKee Road are local responsibility, and we should be painting those every few years. This is the current snow and ice control map for our Greenway System, what I'm calling our Greenway System. Fitchburg has a dedicated crew, park maintenance, and dedicated equipment that go out and clear our path system at the same time that our Public Works Department and Utility Department plow our streets. That's why we have such awesome systems that are ready for the next day's commute, just like the roads. So this is an expense that we're already investing in this system, and the promotion and signage of a Greenway System will help us get more out of it. So in conclusion, we have a dense network in parts of our city that should be promoted as a civic asset. The cost and designation of designation signage of a Greenway System is modest, and the returns in civic pride, health, and economic benefit will be enormous. The process starts with the Park Commission approving the concept and directing park staff to work on a resolution. That's already been done. And a reasonable goal for 2021 is to have the council approve a master plan and find funding to sign the initial 4.2 mile Fish Hatchery Greenway from Wayland up until, now what happened here? I have lost my page, so I want to get back to it. Yeah, what happened was I ran out the end of my presentation. So I have two more assets to share. Yeah, that was it. Okay. And I am going to send those along by email, or I've already sent them.
Just as a quick time check, Steve, it looks like we've got 5 minutes left here.
Sure. I've sent
and we still have to get just the staff announcements after this.
Yep. I sent along the draft resolution by email to all the members of the bicycle committee this morning before the start of the meeting. And the other thing is a table of the proposed segments, so you can see what I've proposed to name each one and how long each one is in terms of miles and tenths. So questions and answers and discussion.
If I might just provide a couple just quick thoughts. Phil?
Go ahead, Scott.
Certainly a public thank you to Steve and Bike Fitchburg. As he noted through his presentation, this is a great asset to the city, and the city is currently investing a lot of money in maintenance and upkeep and those types of things in the system. And I guess I view this as a promotion, as Steve indicated, of the assets that we have within the city of Fitchburg park system. So, I'm in full support. The Park Commission is in full support, and certainly appreciate the efforts of Bike Fitchburg and Steve in bringing this plan to fruition. And I suspect too that our local businesses and those kinds of things are also going to be supportive of this work. And like anything else, it's I always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. But we've got to start, and I just wanted to thank Steve publicly and Bike Fitchburg for their help with this project.
Am I
Scott, just a comment to you guys. Go ahead, Steve.
Am I still sharing my screen?
No.
No.
Good, because I couldn't find the window to stop sharing. Thank you.
So Scott, go ahead.
Okay, just make two more points. Never mind, I won't. Go ahead.
So Scott, as we wrap this up, and I want Phil to have a couple minutes here, I think we've got to get, as bike committee members, get a hand. I think this is a great idea too, and I laud the work as well. We got to get a handle on the cost. And I look, there's a ton of signs, and that's my term, is a ton on there. And there was comments about improving the infrastructure with painting and maintenance. We're going to have to tell our alders in the city, and more importantly, if you're going to manage this down the road, what it's going to cost. Mm-hmm. And as we move it forward, if phase one is just fish hatch, you ought to be able to break that down and say it's going to cost for 10 signs at X and Y. So I think we have to get, as the proposal moves forward, it's more than a resolution. We got to have a cost. And I would advocate that cost gets baked in as it goes forward. You told me, or Steve said, you're plowing all this stuff, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm assuming you're mowing it too. Mm-hmm. So those are things that are already ongoing, but the new costs we need to identify. That's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was going to be one of my points. I think that there needs to be 20 cross signs, street sign size, on the fish hatchery segment. Of those, about 6 of them need posts because there's no existing posts there. And I would propose putting 8 signs that say welcome. They have path use etiquette in English and Spanish, and no motor vehicles. And they would be at the 2 ends and at Post, McKee, and Greenway Cross. So I'm estimating that we're talking $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. And I'm going to get estimates for that. And that would be in the packet for the resolution, so that there would be a cost estimate for this initial 4.2 mile segment. The total system is 35.5 miles. And so you can partially extrapolate from that, even though maybe that initial segment isn't a representative sample of the whole system. It would give you at least a ballpark.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other committee member comment on Steve's presentation?
Steve, I would just be, I'm curious about the signage and what it'll look like. And so maybe we can talk offline before we schedule a time to meet the board meeting. I don't know, I think you were on the council when we did the initial Forward Fitchburg, and Zebra Dog came up with our kind of branding content. And there was actually some recommendations in there to market and use our banners and signage and stuff to identify, different than what you're talking about, but the goal is the same. Identify Fitchburg biking routes and trails in Fitchburg. And so I would just wonder if there's an opportunity to revisit some of that.
That definitely figures in. That branding study called for some toppers that go on the street signs at our borders. And they could also go around the along the Greenway or at key points in the Greenway. Another important plan that figures into this is the Dane County Bicycle Wayfinding Manual. That was designed with the cooperation of Anna and Fitchburg Public Works and a county-wide committee. And that is the signage that you currently see along the Cannonball Path and the Capital City State Trail. So that is the system that we would use. That system already has the branding for Fitchburg that is right there as incorporated in it.
Okay.
Okay, we're thank you, Steve. We're past our time. Phil, I almost got it done. Do you have anything you want to add before we break? I think if you have comments on this proposal, get them to Steve, Phil, or myself, and we'll pass them along. And Scott. So, Phil, do you have anything you report?
Just really quickly report from the department. We did give Mark and Andy and I gave a presentation of the Common Council Committee of the Whole March 24th, just kind of gave an overview of the bike committee and outlining the committee's priorities for the next few years. If you didn't get a chance to view that, the video presentation is archived online. I encourage you to go check that out. The bike registration ordinance we discussed in February, that's being worked on with legal and other staff members. I'll be submitting an ordinance change to the Common Council for referral to bike committee in the next couple weeks. So we should have it back to us for consideration on June 1st. The one thing of note is after discussing this with staff and the mayor, the proposed change is going to be to repeal the existing ordinance entirely rather than adjusting the language to be a recommendation. It just, ordinances are typically not used to give gentle nudges. Either something is required or it's not. So if we're getting rid of the requirement, the ordinance is just going to be stricken, hopefully. Then funding for potentially joining into a new system with those national bike registries, that's something that would be put into a budget proposal again for 2022 and beyond, rather than as a separate resolution. And then there's been some discussion between myself and Mark and Angela as the chamber's looking to update their printed Fitchburg bicycle network map. So that's just, we're really excited to get new printed maps out there and always appreciative of the work that the chamber does there with helping to promote the city's bike infrastructure. And just, for my own comment, Steve, thanks again for all the work you've put into this Greenway. I'm really, really excited about that possibility. I think it's a great branding opportunity for the city. I've reached out to several folks beyond just you and me and Mark and Scott, trying to make sure that we've got several departments in the city aware of this and really coordinating together and making sure that we're all kind of rowing the same direction. So I'm really excited to get that moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Phil. I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is June 1. Yeah, June 1st. Any feedback?
I'll move adjournment.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay, we are adjourned. I'm not even going to take a vote.